Welcome back to A Celtic State of Mind. We're in that strange wee bit, Quinny, between Christmas and New Year. No one's quite sure what day of the week it is, but we do know Celtic are playing, and they're playing St Johnstone, and it's at Celtic Park, and we kick off in half an hour's time. I'm joined, of course, by the mighty Quinn and Liam Carrigan. We're here for half an hour to talk about the upcoming match. I seem to remember, Liam, Celtic wearing that jersey against St Johnstone sometime in the past. It was a lesser worn jersey, I think, but it's a classic. It's an absolute classic.
I just remember it because it was it was from the season where we beat Barcelona, and that was actually the last time I was able to go to a Celtic game in person. So hopefully that run doesn't last too much longer, but you never know.
I love that. I love the fact often Brendan Rodgers will comment after a game, Quinny, about everybody that turns out for the game, everybody who's in the CSCs around the world, because he appreciates. I mean, there's Liam there. Liam, you'll probably watch the game with your old fella remotely over in Japan watching Celtic, everybody tuning in to watch Celtic. Quinny, it's the last game that we will play in 2024. I think everyone's seen that list that was going around of all the achievements that we have had. I didn't have access to that during the week. I wish I did when I went on my wee mini rant about, you know what, we're actually doing okay. What a year it's been.
Oh, it's been incredible looking back on it. There's been some great graphics and stat collection being posted around on Twitter and all the rest of it. And it's great to kind of bring it all into focus again, because we are I don't want to say getting ahead of ourselves, but we're certainly enjoying the journey very much. And it's very much like we're not looking in the rearview mirror. We're looking straight out the window coming forward, you know. Yeah. So it's nice to, just get grounded a wee bit with it again and drink it in.
No, without a doubt, Quinn. I mean, if it isn't for moments like that where you drink it in and you absolutely enjoy it, then what's supporting football all about, Liam? It's these moments, isn't it? It's having the domination that Celtic have enjoyed and earned, and actually just saying, you know what, I'm going to enjoy this, and I'm going to have a bit of crack about it as well, because that's what being a football fan's all about. Now, I'm pretty sure most of you will have seen the starting 11 already, but let's run through that just now. It's an interesting one. Interesting in that the captain is being rested today. And that's what we'll start off with. Liam Carrigan. Very unusual to see a Celtic starting 11 without Callum McGregor in it. Are you interested to see how Engels, Bernardo and Hatate fare as a trio?
Well, I mean, it's the thing is, only two of those three can play against Rangers next week, because we know Callum McGregor will be back.
Yeah.
So it's a chance for all three of them to stake their claim. And I wouldn't rule out McCowan being pitched in next week either, because for me, Dundee United notwithstanding, he's been superb since we signed him. So really there's actually five players, I think, competing realistically for three places. So, and of course, one of them is already taken. So it's a question of who else gets the nod.
Yeah, it's a great situation to be in, Liam. Absolutely. And I think trying to build towards something similar all across the park will give us the best chance of progressing, not only domestically, but in the European competition this season. Is it as simple, Quinny, as looking at that trio in the midfield and saying Engels will be playing 6, Bernardo 8, Hatate 10? Is it that simple?
No, I really don't see it working like that. There's a comment as well, talking something similar to seeing how Engels will do at the base of it. Bernardo is like the base midfielder out the three for me. Like, I think we'll see Engels and Bernardo like kind of holding hands a little bit. They'll probably both look like they're in that position, and then they'll take turns maybe roaming into space going forward. But I would certainly expect Bernardo to be the deeper of the two. I made a good, I thought there was a good argument for seeing this midfield three earlier in the season when we were kind of disjointed at times, because like McGregor being in that middle position then moves Bernardo into a space where I don't think it's overly his game, and then there's different pressures that come on to Engels when he's played alongside McGregor because he's not super defensive. So I think this could, like, the midfield could look very slick today, like very well balanced.
Without a doubt. And the other thing I would say is, once we're in an attacking position, what you find is Hatate going out left to link up with the left back and the left winger, and Engels doing the exact same on the right-hand side. So you then have that kind of focal point of Bernardo in the middle. And I don't think that is beyond him. I think that Bernardo has been very effective, but going about his business quietly quietly effective this season, Bernardo, and I'm looking forward to seeing him getting a start today. But you're right in what you say, Liam, in relation to that. It's 3 guys on the park fighting for a jersey, with McCowan also on the bench, hoping to make an impression when he comes on. We'll run through the rest of the team. Let us know what you think in the comments section. We've got Bawheed Bob. People have been saying he needs managed for 5 years. Glad to see we have done it for 1 game. Aye, I think what we're seeing here is Brendan Rodgers saying, well, you know this, we're going to rest him for the Rangers game. 1 eye on the Rangers match. Let's dip back into the defensive area then. And again, it's brilliant to see Johnstone back in the side. We spoke about Ralston in depth, Liam, during the week and what he brings to this squad and how important low maintenance players like Tony Ralston are. But Johnstone comes back in, and it's great to see that he's back in for the Rangers game. Carter Vickers is getting the captain's armband. But again, in terms of leaders, Liam, that's something we're not short of. I mean, Kasper Schmeichel's a captain. Alistair Johnston's a captain for me. We do see throughout this team leaders emerging, and we've got far more leaders in that side now than we have had for quite some time. It could have been any number of players that got that captain's armband for me, Liam.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think in the fullness of time, there's going to be even more leaders are going to emerge. I see early signs of those qualities in McCowan, for example. I think he's got the way that you see him sort of take on a game, and he'll bring the ball forward and have a shot, and he's not afraid to keep going. And even though he's on the bench today, I expect him to come on and make some sort of claim to try and at least be in the squad for next week.
Well, this is the thing. He was a captain at Dundee. It's a great point you make, Liam. We're looking at Carter Vickers at the back, Quinny, and obviously the question is, it's Carter Vickers plus another. Liam Scales is on the park today. We've been chatting about this in the group chat. Scales is there on merit, Quinny. I mean, he's a player that, I said the other week there, he's on a very short leash with some people, not allowed to make a single mistake, not allowed to play somebody on side, and people are at it constantly, William Scales. But if you look at the entirety of his performances this season, potentially the most consistent centre-half we've had.
Yeah, I think over the last couple of seasons, certainly. And I think it's a huge testament to him to get back into the team, because if you remember when Trusty first kind of get bled in properly, where it was Trusty and Vickers for a few weeks, I think we were all in agreement that there seemed to be a new balance in defence, but it just felt like, they dovetailed together quite nicely, and they had a bit of a difference in the partnership to what we'd seen with any other centre-back pairing before. And you did feel that Scales had maybe moved down the pecking order ever so slightly. But over the last 2 weeks or something, his performances for me, I know it is Carter Vickers plus another, but in some ways, it maybe feels like I'm surprised to see Vickers play today. Going Thursday to Sunday and then Thursday again. I thought this might have been, I know McGregor's got the rest, but I thought this might have been a game to rest Vickers and bring Trusty back in. Because that's kind of the way I kind of half see it now. I know Vickers is the best player we've got in there, but Scales can play every game. Scales makes such a big difference to us. His assist last week for the little flick on, he scores goals as well now from corners, and he's not got the best passing ability in the world, but he sees passes, long range ones, he tries them. He has a different kind of distribution from him compared to Trusty and basically the rest of the defence. So I think Scales is in with the paper now, in defence after the last week or two that he's had, really coming back from adversity in some ways.
Yeah, what a turnaround, by the way. In his entire career, his football career since Brendan Rodgers has come in, we do see that, when a manager comes in and a player can be resurrected. I've never seen a resurrection like it. It's like a phoenix from the flames. Remember that, Liam, from fantasy football? Remember Tommy Gemmill was on Phoenix from the Flames and they booted him up the backside. Yep. He went all in. It was a bit of method acting by Tommy Gemmill. But of course, we've just... we've spoken about the centre-halves, and I agree. I actually fancy Scales for a goal today. Probably based off the fact that in the League Cup final, he comes on, he gets that flick that Taylor ends up scoring. And at the weekend there, he gets the flick as well off the corner kick. He's very good at doing it, and I think that, we're going to see him find the net today. There's my prediction. The full-backs, Liam, Alistair Johnstone on the right and Bailly on the left. Is that another case when you look at that bench and you look at the likes of Maida and Taylor, is it another case of resting them for Ibrox in terms of the left back, or do you think Bailly's got a chance of starting?
I think it's a bit of both. I think you want Taylor to be fresh for Ibrox with the presumption that he's going to play. But on the other hand, if Valle has a good game today, then there's questions to be asked. I'm not one of these people who's going to hate on Greg Taylor. I think I said in the week, he's one of our most consistent, like 7 or 8 out of 10 every time he plays. But he did have a shocker against Rangers last time. So there is that concern there. And as long as there's a concern, there's a chance for Valle, and he's got a chance to really stake his claim today. It's kind of the same as I said about the midfielders. Everybody who's getting a game today has got a chance to at least stake a claim for next week. Because I stand by what I said, that I think although we are resting a couple of players, I think Rodgers is going to want to play as close to the shape that he's planning to play next week today as a sort of a tune-up.
You know this, right? You're looking at that and you do take it for granted, Quinny. You think, all right, well, Johnston's back. Johnston's back to full fitness. Let's get him a game before the Rangers game, and you expect him to start. We're kind of the view now, Carter Vickers and Scalesy are going to be the starting central defensive partnership. But then you're looking at by one of the midfield players, Yang, and you're thinking to yourself, right, they're in there to obviously give McGregor and Maeda and Taylor a rest. But what if one of them absolutely smashes it today? Baye goes in and plays outstanding, or Yang, a player that is much maligned. He has been. He wasn't that bad at the weekend. I thought he probably played one of his better games. Do you think there's an opportunity there, Quinny? Do you think Rodgers in his mind, if fit, already has his starting 11 for Ibrox?
Yeah, I think Rodgers knows the team already for Thursday for sure. I think the difference in this game in terms of like could a Valle come in or somebody else is it's Ibrox away, no away fans, kind of cauldron of death kind of situation. So Valle has done very well for us in the Champions League, arguably our best left back in the Champions League. There's probably a case to be said for him. So could he play in that kind of environment? There's definitely nothing saying that it would be a casualty or an empty jersey or whatever. But I do think that plays a factor in it as well, similar to what some of the kid chat we're picking up with Trusty getting subbed off at halftime in the final. Like that's a different kind of ball game playing them. Never mind it being a final, never mind it being at their place. So I'm very much in the same thought as Liam's. I think this is a precursor to what we're going to get on Thursday. But I do think like there's a mixture of like, yeah, we know Dyson's getting a rest and that kind of thing. But I think Valle is maybe the only one that could change the script, as it were, because I don't think Yang is going to get a look in. I don't think Ralston would get a look in. I don't think Trusty will get a look in, no matter how well they do today from the start or from the bench.
It's interesting how you see that starting 11 develop, Quinny, as the season goes on. You think Trusty's in, and you think he's in like Flynn, and then there you go, Scales forces his way back into the side. I agree with you. I don't think Yang is going to start against Rangers. Absolutely not. I mean, for a couple of reasons. One being Maeda loves playing against them. But also I think there was a real test of character in the 3-each game from last season where Yang, for me, bottled it defensively and they scored their third goal. They scored the equaliser. And that's still fresh in my memory. I think there's quite a little bit of work to be done by Yang. There was rumours flying about, Liam, that we're going to have a busy January. Yang's one of the guys who's going to be out the door along with Bernabe, for example, and a few others. If that's the case, do you think that it'll be on loan? Do you think that Rodgers will persevere with the player? Because he seems to have done so far, hasn't he?
I hope it's on loan because I still think there's a player in there. I really do. And I don't know. I mean, he might. I think it's a case of if we get a big offer for him, he would go. I mean, he's maybe in a similar position to Leo Abada was last season in the sense that it was a player we could afford to lose, but it took funny money for him to go. There were other factors, of course, in play with Abada, but it's at the end of the day, he wouldn't have gone if we hadn't have got a 10 million offer for him. If we got, I think, even half of that offered for Yang, he'd be out the door.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. I kind of liken it a wee bit to the Mikey Johnson scenario where Mikey was playing virtually up until he was sold, wasn't he? He continually was in the side. And I think that we're in that situation at the moment that Yang will play because there's a bit of a dearth of quality when it comes to the backup winners. So Yang's getting a nod over Palmer. And of course, Palm was on the bench today. Some great points coming through. Thanks everybody for getting involved. We are, of course, focusing on the St Johnstone game today with one eye on that game on Thursday as well. And of course, there's going to be a Hogmanay and a New Year's Day and steak pie and all that kind of stuff to fit in between. RGL 67. Glad Calmac is getting a rest. He is getting a wee bit older. Is he not just 31, Quinny? Is that old? Seriously,
yeah,
man.
this is the thing I always get with McGregor as well. Is like football age versus like real world age and that kind of thing. But also like a huge part of it that is lost on Celtic fans is the retirement age of footballers is way up over the last 10 years. Like 31 is like nothing, you know, like I'm watching guys all across the world playing like 36 to 38 and still looking like not their peak, obviously, but still getting in amongst it to some extent. And yeah, you know, minutes less and impact lessons, but for somebody like McGregor, like we don't need to be hitting him with the age stuff until 33, 34 for me, you know, because like, yeah, his top speeds maybe went down a little bit. He might not cover quite the same amount of kilometers, but he's still a professional athlete. I mean, he's still playing 60 games a season for the most part, you know, so yeah, he's definitely due a rest because he plays all the time and all the rest of it. But I think the age part of it does get overstated.
The point you make there, which I think is brilliant, is the way that the game is developing. And a massive part of that, Liam, is the sports science, the diet, you know, the conditioning, all that kind of thing is improving year on year. The margins are improving. And as Quinny says there, we're seeing so many more professionals getting quite a good few years extra out of their career. I remember growing up and like Paul McStay hitting 27 and the press talking about him hitting the peak of his football career. That was like the magic age, wasn't it? 27, 28. And then the minute you hit 30, you're an old codger, you're looking at a testimonial and you're probably retiring in a couple of years. But that is becoming something from the past. You know, post 35 footballers, you can still do it at the top level. And I know that Callum's played a lot of football and he's crammed a lot of football in to the fact that, you know, he was 21 when he made his debut, which I always go back to. Danny McGrain was 20 when he made his debut for Celtic. And when you look at the kind of average games that McGregor plays, listen for this for a run, right? So when he breaks in under Ronnie Deila, he makes 30 appearances, and then the run goes like this: 34, 46, 55, 59, 52, 49, 52, 42, 45, and 25 this season. And you throw in all the international games in there as well. So he has averaged a lot of football. There's been a lot of football in his legs. I look at Scott Brown, Liam. Scott Brown was playing Premiership football until he was 36. And I think to myself, if McGregor can do that, he's going to be smashing all kinds of records when it comes to most decorated player. He's already, you know, creeping into that 500 club. You're then thinking if he can maybe catch Scott Brown, because that's like 150 games for Callum McGregor's 3 seasons. You know, and he's going to have a few years on Bruni. So I think it's a great point Quinny makes in terms of the development of a footballer and the fact that they are playing into their 30s now and into their kind of latter 30s as well.
It's also about the football brain. You know, more intelligent players tend to last longer. I mean, you look at, I think Del Piero was still playing when he was 40. Lothar Matthäus captained Germany at 41.
Yeah.
You know, if you've got the brain, you might drop a bit deeper as time goes on, but you can still keep playing. I think Scott Brown had that. I personally think Scott Brown could probably have played for another couple of years if he wanted to. I didn't see that massive drop off that you usually see before a player retires.
Yeah.
But McGregor's definitely got that footballing intelligence that he could adapt his position and probably play on for at least another 5 or 6 years easily.
I'd love to see it, Liam. I mean, didn't Bruni in his last season score a goal against Rangers at Ibrox for Aberdeen?
Yeah.
And he wound him up massively during that campaign as well. So Callum McGregor, the big thing about him as well, of course, is when you're looking during his time at Celtic, only on 2 occasions has he scored 10 or more goals in a campaign. And this season he's already scored 6. So he's been pretty prolific from his perspective. I think there had to be some kind of a sharing around of the goals and the assists that we were going to lose when Matt O'Reilly left the building, Quinny. He's done it. He stepped up to the plate. We've got a winger in Kuhn who's also stepped up to the plate as well. And it's great to see Kuhn back in the squad because remember just a couple of weeks ago, we were a wee bit concerned that he might be out for the Rangers game, virtue of that injury picked up in the last time. we've played our great rivals. Kuhn starts on the right, Yang on the left, Kyogo through the middle. A few people are making arguments for Ida starting today, but again, I think that's with one eye on the Rangers game. Quinny, what's your take?
I think Ida should have. I was disappointed they never did better in the last match, and I feared that coming into this game he wouldn't start again, and equally I fear that he won't start against Rangers. And I do think that, like, there's this thing in the squad now where it's centre back and at midfield that we've pointed out already, and maybe even left back, you could say. The competition is so good that it's lifting the level of whoever is selected. But a big part of that is like the guys that are pushing to get in need to see that it can work, it can bear fruit. You know, like if you do well enough, like the job is yours, that you'll get into the team sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And it feels like for Ida, like there's very little of that to hang on to for him. You know, and I know his form hasn't been scintillating in the last game or two. His numbers are much better than Kyogo's. And what Kyogo has that Ida doesn't is runs of starts. You know, like you can't really ask much more of Ida without getting him 3 or 4 starts on the bounce. And I thought he started the last game. I could have seen him starting this game quite easily and then going away to Ibrox. I know Kyogo is that guy, you know, for that game, you know, and it's hard to not see him start, but there's just as every advantage to that game as starting Ida, I might have thought. And, you know, and if Kyogo is not firing right now, so there's a train of thought that I could have seen Ida starting this one. But again, equally, it's keep Kyogo in the deep end until he starts swimming.
Yeah, this is a brilliant discussion point, actually, and going into the Rangers game as well, Liam, because, I mean, I don't think there are many people out there who think that Ida is our number one striker, but Kyogo, in terms of being prolific, hasn't been that guy this season. But I think that you think back to the Rangers games that he has stepped up in, the cup finals that he has stepped up in, and it's difficult to see a starting 11 at Ibrox that doesn't include Kyogo. Do you think that Ida might be some kind of secret weapon for Brendan Rodgers on Thursday? Do you think he could throw him in? Or are you in agreement with Quinny in that respect that, you know, if Kyogo's fit, he plays against him?
I mean, Ida's an option for sure, but no, I think you start with Kyogo. Those sort of games are made for players that can produce something special. And that's why I think you need to have the likes of Kyogo, Kuhn, Hatate, Maeda. They all need to be there because, quite frankly, we know Rangers are terrified of every one of them. So, yeah, I think you go with Kyogo on Thursday, but it's an option and it's a good option to have. It's good to have two very different strikers that you can deploy depending on how you want to line up. By the
way, he might not mention it again, but Lawrence did correctly predict not only the final score, but a half-time score at the weekend against Motherwell, Quinny. And then, of course, we start talking about today's fixtures. And we're allowed to dream. We're allowed to throw out predictions and all that. And we're going to do that in a moment. But it wasn't good enough for the big man sitting in the Skylark bar. He wanted to know half-time predictions and full-time predictions, not only for the Celtic game, but also for the Rangers game, Quinny. And we dutifully gave him them, right? So here's mine. I'm going to throw it out there. I'm not a betting man, so if anybody thinks this is a good shout, tell me what the odds are. So my prediction for Celtic today, this is bold, gentlemen. This is bold, but I'm looking at St Johnstone. I'm looking at the form. I think they've won 1 in the last 10. They're rooted at the foot of the table. And I'm looking and I'm thinking Celtic at home at Paradise with people vying for jerseys for the Ibrox game. I think we could absolutely steamroller them today. I'm going to go 3-0, 5-0 today, Quinny. What's your take? We'll start with the Celtic score, 3-0, 5-0.
I just went into the chat there and I can see me and you have done the same Celtic one. I've went 3-0, 5-0. But sitting here now, I feel 2-0 first half. So to not copy you in this one, I'll go 2-0, 5-0.
2-0, 5-0, says Quinny. Liam, do you fancy a prediction half-time, full-time?
I think we're going to end strong. I'm going to say 2-0, 6-0.
Oh, yes. Brilliant. By the way, caveat, footnote, asterisk, we're no disrespecting St Johnstone. This is more to do with the steamroller effect of Celtic. And, of course, we don't really go on about anybody else, but it's Ibrox next week, and Rangers are playing Motherwell. I'm going to say, Quinny, that Motherwell will be winning 1-0 at half-time and the game will finish 2 each.
I think that's got 0-0 draw written all over it. I can just see disappointment and just, you know, abject like failure in that regard. Like Motherwell weren't a pushover for us necessarily. No. I don't really see, and you know, I know him personally, so I hope he doesn't hear this, but I don't see Tony scoring against them. I don't think Motherwell looked like they had many goals in them when they played us. I know Lennon Miller has been a bit of a creator this year, but yeah, 0-0 is what I feel for that game.
Hey, I'd be happy with that, Quinny. Honestly, nothing each. We're talking faded blue seats and boos by the end of the game. Liam, give me a half-time and a full-time prediction.
Okay, I'm going to go 1 each at half-time and full-time 3-0 to Rangers. In statements, not in goals.
Statements, FC. Right, 1200 live on the stream. Thanks, everybody, for getting involved. We're all looking forward to Celtic versus St Johnstone. I'll just bring in some of your comments before we go to the action. It's Green Elicty. I'd love to see KT paraded. We cannot get through a stream, right, until he signs, without mentioning Kieran Tierney. Paraded at Celtic Park on the first, send a message. Yeah, that would be very good, if you ask me. My ball, not at the game today. Seems a shame that Celtic have still not organised a ticket exchange scheme for empty seats. Quinny, Liam and I are talking about VR. Liam and I are talking about going to the game together, virtually, and we still can't sort out a ticket exchange scheme. Why not? Is it really a simple case of implementing a new computer system to allow the club to do this? Because it seems like a simple fix.
Yeah, it certainly does. But I think, like, with a lot of these things, it's like, what does Celtic gain? Celtic don't gain anything. The tickets are already sold, if you like, so resources, hiring people, advertising it so people know about it, encouraging engagement on it. Celtic are a big club, but like, we don't have vast amounts of resources, tons of departments and employees and all the rest of it. And that's maybe part of the root of our frustration sometimes, at how long it takes for some stuff to progress and actually develop. Like we're talking about the scouting and some of our stuff over the season. So it probably is quite an easy one, but the motivation for them to do it is probably zero.
That's a shame. No, I get it. I totally get it. And I think you see that in certain little departments within the club, Quinny, where you're thinking that could be better, but they're probably not going to put the budget there. They'll use that budget somewhere else. Liam, it does seem quite frustrating for a lot of fans. There's going to be 4 empty seats. And I guess you do have that average revenue per customer, as they call it. I would prefer to call it per fan, where if you're in a stadium, money will be spent on average to the tune of, I think it's 8 or 9 quid. So, as well as the bums on seats and improving the atmosphere, there is going to be the generation of revenue because you're in there and you're buying food and drink and programmes and scarves, etc.
There is the problem with Celtic, though, is, and I don't know if this is still the case, but when I worked with the club through the catering with my dad's old company, all that was outsourced. So Celtic got a flat rate per game, regardless of how many pies, hot dogs, whatever were actually sold. So they're probably not thinking about the per head spend,
right?
And they should take that in house. They should run it properly, but I would imagine it's probably still being done on the cheap, unfortunately. That
is very unfortunate indeed. Craig Young, afternoon, Celtic people. Absolutely everybody out there with a Celtic state of mind. Good afternoon to every one of you. Kenny Stoker, hope you and everyone had a good Christmas. We still are. I mean, let's be honest, we're still getting, chocolate for breakfast and all that kind of stuff. That's the only time where it's acceptable to be an absolute slob. Right, here we go. Matt CLI, come on, you boys in green, watching from Perth, Australia. Thank you for tuning in. Always brilliant to see. And Jungle Lion, always great to see you as well. Is Scales the new centre-back beside CCV? Well, I think we're all in agreement here that he is. We've brought in a £6 million replacement, in inverted commas, and he's kept him out the side. Last season, we brought in £7.5 million centre-halves in the shape of Lagerbielke and Nawrocki. Kept him out the team as well, so he's doing brilliantly. Magnet67, good afternoon to you as well. Looking for a big performance, so are we, and a win today to round off an incredible year. We're talking 5-0 and 6-0. Yes, I know that you're setting yourself up for a slap in the chops at half-time, but let's hope that we can see that through. Sharon Thompson, when are we going to see the Acsom logo on the team jerseys? Wouldn't that be something? Oh, that would be something indeed. We are working on some new merchandise, by the way, so keep an eye out for that on the new website, which is going to be relaunched very soon. Tommy Cassidy, fantastic show with John Higgins. That was Friday night. And what a brilliant shout from him to get Paul the Maestro McStay on the show. Great work, lads. Tommy, it might involve us having to go over to Australia to speak to Paul, But if we can get the budget in place, I'll be there. That's for sure. Yang and Baye will be interesting, says DG83. Yeah, it will be interesting. And I think it's a scenario really for Yang to really try and build on a decent enough performance at the weekend. He's a player that I think Rodgers has shown quite a bit of faith in, and it's time for him to repay that and step up. We've already put in the predictions. Go and enjoy the first half. We'll be back here at half-time on a Celtic State of Mind.
One hoops.